Hello, my beautiful friends. I am Laurel Bleadon-Maffei with Illuminating Souls, welcoming you to this episode of Sleepy Bedtime Blessings, a podcast designed to help you rest, relax, and fall asleep, all while deepening in your connection with your beautiful team of angels who love you so. I am an angelic practitioner, a spiritual teacher, and an encourager of souls. And in addition to hosting this podcast, I also offer one-on-one angel sessions that are lovely. They are 1-hour sessions and take place over the phone. We have heartfelt conversation. I bring forward messages from the angels, and the intention is to help you deepen with your divine guidance. I also offer longer form support by way of soul mentoring, or as my friend Cecilia calls it, angel mentoring, where we will meet each week, and it provides a lovely, supportive, sacred container for you as you move through a time of growth or transformation or just ordinary life. But you could use a bit of extra support. And then I also offer a wide variety of classes. I offer a new class about every 6 weeks. As I record this, I'm getting ready for my new class called The Path of Enchantment, where we're going to be exploring some of my favorite themes, including your connection with your angels, the realm of the fairies, and so much more. And if by chance, by the time you hear this episode, that class has already come and gone, I promise you there's another class about to start in something else. So you can come over to my website at illuminatingsouls.com, where you can sign up for my mailing list. And you'll receive inspiring emails from me and also announcements about what I have going on. But for now, beautiful, beautiful soul, the angels and I are here to invite you into this beautiful, loving sanctuary designed to help you rest, replenish, and experience the love of your angels in the divine realm. Just as I was getting ready to record, I was taking my own few deep breaths in and attuning. And as I've shared with you before, I often record these episodes in the early morning when things are still quiet. And I was listening to the quiet. And it's not necessarily quiet. Sometimes I can hear a bird chirping in the background. Sometimes I can hear the rustling of the leaves. But I'm not necessarily hearing the noise of the modern age intruding upon this sanctuary. I think that's one of the reasons I love recording at this hour so much. My desk in my office faces a window. It's actually right up against the window, and my window faces the redwood fence that divides our side yard from our neighbor's yard. And there's some ivy growing over the fence. And my neighbor is a gardener, and he has a wonderful green thumb for everything. So there are all kinds of trees in his backyard. And so I look out at this sea of green. And there are so many different shades of green, so many different shapes of leaves. And each tree responds to the gentle breeze of the morning differently. And then many mornings, not right now, but there is almost always a squirrel or two on the roof of his house or scampering across the wires. And it creates such a lovely oasis from which to create this broadcast for you. You know, life is busy and hectic even when it's not, right? We've got our phones or our tablets or our computers. We might scroll through screens on social media. There's a lot of stimulus in our lives. And so even though this podcast could be interpreted as stimulus, my hope is it is a transmission that helps you come into quiet, calm, peaceful energy. And as I've shared with you before, I love bedtime. I honor bedtime. It's just so lovely to me that we reach that time of the day when we get to declare it complete, and we get to go into, hopefully, a cocoon of comfort. I find a lot of comfort in the process of crawling into bed. We're fortunate we live in a home that has both central air and heating, and so we can control the climate of our home. So it's always a temperature I desire, my husband desires. And I almost always go to bed before my husband. It's strange to me when he crawls in bed before I do. I always feel like something's off. And I put the television on for him because he likes to fall asleep to the TV. And I turn down the volume, but I find a show I think he'll like to watch. And then I turn off all the other lights and I slip underneath the covers. I'm a more covers the better kind of girl, but it's summer right now. And so our style of sleeping is we love flannel sheets, even in the summer. We just love them. And we sleep with a top sheet. I know other parts of the world don't use top sheets, but we do here. And then we have a very, very light blanket, and then a comforter. I can't sleep without the weight of a comforter on me. I need the feeling of being cocooned in my bed. And then I also sleep with a body pillow that is along the side of the bed, the edge of the bed. I've done that ever since I was a kid. Before body pillows were a thing, I would use my stuffed animals and I would build a fort between my body and the edge of the bed, because as a kid, my bed was up against the wall. So I was, quote, safe, right? I had a fortress by the wall, and then I would put my stuffed animals on the other side of me, and I would cocoon in bed. So I guess my sleep style has been with me since childhood. So Wes is on one side of me. He is a very good fortress. He always makes me feel safe. And then I have my body pillow on the other side, and the big comforter and pillows, and I cocoon in. And it makes me so happy because almost always by the time I crawl in bed, my body and my mind have started to drift off already. I'm tired. And I pick out a sleep podcast. Right now I'm re-listening to The Enchanted April on the Sleepy bookshelf. And I'm really enjoying it the second time around. And I do listen to my own sleep podcast, so I can give my own testimonial that this podcast also helps usher me off to sleep. And also these days, it's not uncommon for me to wake up around 3 a.m., but I'm not ready to be awake yet. And so I'll often put on another sleep podcast and set the sleep timer for about 45 minutes. And thankfully, almost always, I'm able to drift off to sleep for a second round of sleeping. I did that last night. I went back to more of the Enchanted April. And so this podcast is born of my own self-care routine. And it is such a blessing to be able to create something that supports you. I've shared with you this quote before. It's a piece of prose that is often attributed to Emerson, but it was not written by him. And I read it for the first time when I was 18 or 19 years old, and there's more to it than this line, but this is the line that really stuck with me. It says, "To know that one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to succeed." And I read that before I knew about all of this work or the New Age or metaphysics, and even back then that seemed like such a sacred accomplishment. That life would have meaning if even one life breathed easier because I had lived. Never knowing at the time that intention would fuel my later years. And I think sometimes we can get caught up in the grandiosity of that. You know, I need to have a best-selling book. I need to have tens of thousands of followers on social media. I need to make a lot of money doing my soul-inspired work. But it really does boil down to the simplicity of the invitation. To touch one life, even if it is for a moment, a breath, is holy and sacred ground. I feel that every day in the work that I do. You may or may not know this, but I have a daily inspiration email blast that I send out, and I've been sending it out for years. Every weekday, I send out an inspiring email. There are the posters that I also post on my Facebook page. And you can sign up for that on my website. And every once in a while, I get an email from someone that I haven't met yet. And they say, "I've been meaning to write you. I've been getting your daily inspiration emails for years now, and they really make a difference." And it delights me so much because I have several thousand people on that mailing list, and most of them I don't know. But they're human beings with lives, right? We're all human beings with lives. And then I can create something that someone can open up on a Thursday morning and maybe get their message that they need for the day. That is amazing. And we all have the ability to do this. We all shine our light all the time. We just may not realize that our ripple is happening. Your ripple is happening, your ripple of love. There are many, many, many lives that breathe easier or have breathed easier because you exist. You are a source of goodness and love in this world. And it is not expected that you do this all the time. I promise you, I am not always a sparkling ray of sunshine. I have a healthy earth girl archetype who dwells within me as well. But it balances out, right? We get to do good in the world. We get to smile at someone. We get to hold the door open for others. We get to let people merge gracefully into traffic on the freeway. We get to be the good ones. We get to be on Team Love and Light, Team Earth Angel. Maybe I should make a t-shirt for us, Team Earth Angel. And we can all wear our t-shirts proudly. But I'm proud of you. You're a good person. That was one of my dad's highest forms of compliment. He would say that, and he'd put their name in. That Mary, she is good people. That Joe, he is good people. So my dad would say that about you. You are good people. And so the angels are already here, but you know I love calling them in and sharing their energy with you. So I invite you to close your eyes if they are not already closed, unless you are operating heavy machinery. And then please, by all means, keep your eyes opened and take a deep breath in as we gently call ourselves forward into the heart of God. And beautiful angels on high, we thank you for the invitation to join you here in loving, light-filled sanctuary. And angels, I ask that you bring blessings of love and light and healing to each of our beloveds hearing this message. Please help clear from us anything that is not ours, anything that is not serving our highest and best good. And please bring us waves of inspiration, grace, ease, joy, and laughter. I'm going to affirm that we all get to laugh today. That something will happen and deep, heartfelt laughter will somehow show up for us. And angels, please make space in our dreams, both our waking dreams and the ones that take place on the astral realm, where we can receive the inspiration and feel deep well-being. And we thank you for the goodness and the light you are bringing to us now. So, dear ones, just take another nice deep breath in, allowing the love of the moment to meet you where you are. You need not reach for this love. This love meets you where you are. It is here for you right now, filling the room or the space you are in with a beautiful, soft, pink light that has been calibrated just for you. That the angels are aware of what is transpiring in your life, and they are here right now to support you. So beautiful, precious friend, I invite you to cozy on up and snuggle on in. And allow yourself to rest and perhaps even drift off into sleep. And while you do, the angels will be with you, and I'm going to read to you. So for this episode, I thought we could go into the Wayback Machine together and read through the pages of the very first volume ever published of Sunset, which would evolve to the Sunset magazine we know today. But this was way before it was that. It was published by the Southern Pacific, which we would know now as the Southern Pacific Railway. And the very first issue was published in May of 1898. And it's really focused on travel and destinations on the West Coast, because that's where the Southern Pacific Railway was. So often in this magazine we find articles about Yosemite, Santa Monica, San Diego, San Francisco, and more. And I decided to go into this issue because as a listener, these actually are some of the episodes that really help put me to sleep when I listen to my own podcast. I love some of the other stories that I do, but I find I tend to get engaged and want to listen to them. Whereas with these episodes, it's easier for me to release the narrative and drift off to sleep. So I am recording this for you and also for a future expression of me who is intending to fall asleep. So a little bit of time travel there, sending this transmission to the future when you or I am trying to fall asleep. So we start off with some ads or mini articles inviting us to the Hotel Del Monte in Monterey, California, the most attractive and palatial all the year-round resort in America. What they say of it: many presidents, princes, and potentates have domiciled at Del Monte and have not thought it beneath them to allow their impressions of it to be published. The following opinions are all from illustrious people. The 3 or 4 days we spent at Monterey made altogether the pleasantest memory we had of California. We have nothing at home that approaches the exquisite setting of this exquisite house. The Pacific all along this coast wears constantly that dazzling sapphire blue, which we see at home only at special times. The sky carries out the same superb color with the glow and depth of sunshine superadded, which is almost too brilliant for belief. It is doubtful if it can be equaled in any part of the world. If the traveler has only time to see one place in California, let that be Monterey, for it is the best of its kind. I have never been so fascinated with a place as with Del Monte, and my only regret is that I could have not stayed longer. I shall never forget any of its beauties or other attractions. The hotel itself, the grounds, the flowers, the lawn, the trees, the 18-mile drive, and the delicious warm saltwater baths at the pavilion. Who could ever forget such a fairy spot? Hotel Del Monte is the most beautiful hotel I ever saw. I can see 100 acres of lawn and flowers from my window, while the air is fragrant with the perfume of roses, violets, heliotropes, and other flowers. And if you'd like to know more, and you're time traveling back to 1898, a beautifully illustrated souvenir book free on application to any representative of the Southern Pacific Company named in Sunset. And then there is an article about San Francisco and the Klondike. The eyes of the world are turned on Alaska and the wonderful gold-bearing Klondike. The verified reports of its enormous wealth show that nothing in the history of gold mining can compare with it. But the first and all-important question now is when to start for the Klondike and how to get there most quickly and comfortably and cheaply. All should appreciate that nothing is gained by a reckless haste that sacrifices health and jeopardizes life, especially in view of the immense magnitude of Alaska's rich domain, and that for many years yet, however great the influx, there will be plenty of room and opportunity for more. Boy, that really speaks to the state of mind back then, doesn't it? That San Francisco is the most natural outfitting headquarters and the point of embarkation cannot be questioned. It is the oldest and several times largest city on the Pacific coast and owes its very existence to just such an epoch as the present. For half a century it has been the center and source of supply of the vast Pacific coast mining industry and is probably the only city in the world capable of meeting the outfitting demands of any mining emergency, however great. Conceived in a fury of mining excitement and born in a storm of gold, its very instincts and attributes are of mines and gold. Its enormous machine shops have built and equipped the largest mining plants on earth, and its great provision houses and outfitting establishments have fed and clothed and fitted hundreds of thousands of miners throughout the Pacific Hemisphere. Its mining appliances, as well as its supplies, are the best and cheapest because the product of wide experience and put upon the markets at first cost under pressure of strong competition. So it goes on to say all the reasons you should pass through San Francisco if you're going to be mining in the Klondike. And then we have a welcome from the editor of The Sunset, or at least I think it's from the editor. The magazine itself is 5 cents a copy, or you can subscribe for 50 cents a year. Sunset, in its initial number, salutes a large circle of readers, which it hopes to constantly widen. It has no advertising space to sell and comes to you unbiased. Its aim is in the presentation, in a convenient form, of information concerning the great states of California, Oregon, Nevada, Texas, Louisiana, and the territories of Arizona and New Mexico, a rich and inexhaustible field over which the dawn of future commercial and industrial importance is just breaking. The pioneers in this field have laid a foundation strong and deep for the superstructure to be erected in the coming years. And whether you share in its building or witness its growth from afar, it is a factor of the future which must be reckoned with. Therefore, we expect to interest you. The resources of this great Western empire for the husbandman, stockman, and miner, and for the tourist and health seeker, will be treated in these pages as fully as space will admit, as concisely as the subjects will warrant, and at all times truthfully. So wide a field cannot be covered in one issue. Therefore, Sunset's work from number to number will be cumulative rather than comprehensive. So this is how Sunset got its start. So it starts with a poem called Lady of the Lake, which I'm not going to read to you because it is a rhyming poem, and I don't know why that doesn't necessarily seem very sleepy to me, but I will read to you the article about Yosemite. In the fastness of the Sierra Nevada, 4,000 feet above the level of the sea, is a chasm or gorge of extraordinary depth. The bottom of the chasm is a level meadow-like lake tract of about 1,100 acres, threaded by a dashing mountain stream, the Merced River, and diversified with groves of noble pines, thickets of smaller growth, and the rarest and most beautiful varieties of flowers, ferns, and grasses. Around this charming sylvan scene rise the walls of the valley almost vertically, to a height of 3,000 to 5,000 feet, spires, cliffs, peaks, domes, and turrets of endless variety in form and feature. And over these rugged battlements pour the crystal waters from the region of eternal snow. Such is Yosemite Valley, the most inspiring, the most sublime, the most beautiful. The world over there is nothing to compare with it. This is the unvarying comment of travelers from many lands. Its imposing peaks are 17 times as high as the tallest European cathedral. The Yosemite Fall, while of lesser volume, is 16 times as high as Niagara. The wonderful proportions of the grand features here, visible from below and from above, and the interesting phases presented by every change of elevation or perspective, are one of the most remarkable character. The grand ensemble impresses the visitor beyond any previous experience. Yet there is not one of the many wonders of Yosemite but must needs be received, as it were, sectionally. The imagination cannot grasp the stupendous entirety. Entering by the established route through Raymond, Awanhi, and Wawona, the first view of the valley is at Inspiration Point, 1,500 feet above the floor, the walls and summits rising almost perpendicularly for thousands of feet. The distant peaks and the soft green of the forests and the vegetation on the floor of the valley form a picture that, as a whole, for a time fills the eye. No detail of lofty column or towering dome can secure judgment in the mind. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "It is the only spot I have ever found that came up to the brag." Gradually the soul expands, and there at the left is El Capitan, a massive granite monolith 3,100 feet high, representing two sides with the angle toward the valley. The smoothness and verticality of its walls, its height exceeding the width of the valley at this point, and its immense bulk make it the most majestic single object on the planet. On the opposite side of the valley, and seemingly at greater distance, Bridal Veil Fall sways a filmy tracery over the face of the cliff 900 feet from the curving lip to the talus at its base, from which a cloud of spray ascends that under certain conditions is arched by perfect rainbows. Cathedral spires 2,500 feet high, Sentinel Rock, the Half Dome, the North Dome, and Cloud's Rest compete the harmonious picture. Descending to the floor of the valley, the way is through umbrageous, I don't know that word, umbrageous, groves, across gamboling streams, and over fertile meadows. I love the language of the day here. So many words we don't really use as often. I don't know that they were used often then, or if the writer is just finding beautiful words to describe Yosemite. Great brakes and delicate ferns embower the gushing wayside founts, and the daintiest of tendrils intertwine. That is a fantastic paragraph. Umbrageous, gamboling, not gambling like in Vegas, Gamboling, embower, fonts. It's a wonderful piece of writing, but we'll continue. This beauty is, however, for the time being lost to the newcomer in the unfolding of the titanic scenes around him. Before, the word Titanic would have so much tragedy associated with it. The Three Brothers, Yosemite Fall, Glacier Point, the Washington Tower, and the Royal Arches come successfully in view as the Sentinel Hotel is neared about the center of the valley. From the hotel, some portion of nearly all the great features of the valley are visible, but the visitor must not suppose that within a single sweeping view he has exhausted the riches. Every day and every hour of his stay will enlarge his apprehension of the colossal structures, and new delights await the broadened comprehension. It is only possible to enumerate the attractions of Yosemite feature by feature, and detail by detail, and by various forms of measurement and comparison afford some slight allurement to the great reality in all caps. So great reality is in all caps. So inadequate are written or spoken words to the task of communicating the grandeur and magnificence of its scenic wonders. After El Capitan, the Yosemite Fall is counted with the great sight of the valley. It is on the north wall, nearly opposite the hotel. The upper fall has the greatest height, 1,500 feet. The second fall, a series of cascades, makes a total descent of 626 feet. And the lower fall, a straight downward plunge of 400 feet. The three falls are in one vertical plane, and the effect from the south side of the valley is most beautiful. There is no other fall of equal volume and of as great a height as the upper Yosemite. It has worn a channel in the solid granite more than 1,000 feet in depth. During the winter and spring, in seasons of heavy rain and snows, the fall is much increased and the boom of its waters can be heard many miles. In the winter, also, a great cone of ice and snow, broken and forced from the upper cliffs, forms at the foot of this fall, and sometimes of great height of 500 feet. Into the center of this great cone of the waters of the fall plunge with a muffled roar, as into the crater of a volcano. And the article continues for many more pages. But I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to mix it up a little bit because this is one of my favorite sections. This is Notes from the Resort. This is where they describe the various resorts of the time on the West Coast. And I enjoy this because it really gives some insight as to where things were at back then in 1898. So we start again with the Hotel Del Monte. This matchless resort, the culmination of the manifold delights of a California tour, has been favored with unusually large patronage this season. Many of the regular winter guests who find that Del Monte grows on them with each succeeding season have varied the usual route and traveled north from Southern California to Del Monte via the shoreline through Santa Barbara and Surf. This route is an enjoyable one and is covered entirely by daylight, including the stage ride of 70 miles over the picturesque Santa Ynez Mountains. Paso Robles and the old Spanish missions are on this line. Hotel Del Monte will hereafter be conducted on both the American and European plans. Mr. B.F. Jones and party of Pennsylvania in private car Cleopatra spent some time here in March and were delighted with the hotel and surroundings. The meeting of the Transcontinental Freight Bureau here in March brought together many representative railwaymen and merchants from all parts of the country. Other visitors of note during the season include Mr. J.T. Brooks, Second Vice President of the Pennsylvania Lines, Governor Hastings of Pennsylvania, F.D. Ewan, W.A. Avery, and they list more people that we don't know, or maybe you do, but I don't. And we now move on to Los Angeles. In spite of the growth of the commercial and manufacturing interests, Los Angeles has not yet lost its character of the rendezvous for California winter tourist travel, and its beautiful flower-embowered streets and parks have been alive with happy Easterners and coaching and excursion parties to Baldwin Ranch, Catalina Island, and over the inside track to Redlands and Riverside have been numerous. The annual field day of the Intercollegiate Athletic Association of Southern California will be held on the Southern Pacific Company's grounds at Santa Monica on April 30th. The Hotel Metropole at Avalon Catalina has recently been remodeled and enlarged. The annual festival La Fiesta de Los Angeles, that has scored such repeated successes in the past, will be held this year commencing May 2nd, notwithstanding the fact that transportation lines did not find it expedient to contribute to the entertainment fund in cash, but instead will do their part in efficient advertising, liberal reductions in rates, and the furnishing of extra facilities in the way of special trains. Los Angeles has been true to her past in manifesting her independence by proceeding with the festival. If its success depended solely on financial assistance from the railroads, it certainly was not a popular institution. It should be, and we believe will be conducted on a higher plane than that of a mere excursion attraction. Its possibilities are boundless, and its fame already almost worldwide. This year, the Water Carnival at Westlake Park will be repeated with the addition of unique electrical effects. For the grand concerts, many soloists of a national reputation have been engaged. And then here's an ominous addendum. Later advices state that in case war is declared, there will be no fiesta. That's very sobering, isn't it? Okay, now we go on to Riverside. The genuine tourist has been very much in evidence this season. You can see them everywhere, on the trains, at the hotels, on the streets, almost always good-natured, pleasantly inquisitive, manifesting much pleasure at the sight of new conditions, always ready to see new places, interested in everything, promising novelty, and rewarding the passer-by who is given information asked for with many ohs, expressions of satisfaction and appreciation, until we all feel like saying, "Bless the tourist. May they become a mighty legion." Well, that'll happen. Mrs. Robert Louis Stevenson, widow of the late author, visited Riverside recently and left on the Sunset Limited en route to Scotland, where she goes to settle up the estate of her husband. The Glenwood Tavern has been a very busy place this winter. Cots, billiard tables, and other extremes have been resorted to in the effort to stow away the coming guest after he had been properly welcomed by mine host, Miller, and his corps of able assistants. But no matter how thick they came, they were all taken care of and invited to come again and stay longer when the new Glenwood shall have become a substantial reality. We'll move on to Pasadena. The aristocratic residence town of Southern California and rendezvous for the traveling upper 10 has enjoyed a remarkably gay season, and the hotel accommodations have been sorely taxed. The Hotel Green has an annex under construction, which will be completed about July 1st, and 100 additional rooms will be added to the La Pintoresca during the summer, which will relieve the pressure next season. The Hotel Green Annex will be connected with the main building across the street by a covered archway, forming a charming promenade, and furnished with a miniature trolley car which will convey guests to and from the office. And then we move on to Coronado, which is down near San Diego. A new jetty has been built at Coronado, forming a permanent pleasure pier and affording a miniature harbor for small craft near the hotel. Coronado has enjoyed an unusually large patronage this season, in common with other California resorts. Many causes are assigned for the big increase in this winter's travel. Some people believe that the Florida frosts have thrown the attention of tourists in other channels than the route to the Palmetto Lands. Others declare that the general prosperity has induced more Eastern people to spy out their own country, while still others think it's only the natural increase due to improved transportation facilities and the widening popularity of California. It is true that the transportation facilities have worked wonders with travel to California. This year, many visitors, perhaps more than half, have first enjoyed the manifold beauties and novelties of life in Mexico, coming on to California over the Sunset route of the Southern Pacific Company. The superb equipment of the limited trains has excited the admiration of all travelers. Speeding across the continent, is now a luxury not equaled in some respects by remaining at home. New scenes, new air, mountain and vale, river and hamlet, speed across the vision in glorious panorama. The sunset route has received high praise for the country through which it traverses, a country unique in scenic attractions and varied in topography. Many a guest this winter, sitting on the piazzas of Hotel del Coronado and gazing at the sunsets behind Point Loma, have been reminded of the happy name of the Southern Pacific route and has voiced his satisfaction with the choice that led him to the sunset over the line. Among the notables at Coronado last month were Mr. Thomas Costigan of New York, Mrs. Ralph Sprague of Chicago, President D.B. Robinson and party of the St. Louis and San Francisco. I don't know any of these people, so I'm going to skip all of that. Not that I knew the names that I read, but a prominent party of New Yorkers recently arriving at Hotel del Coronado over the sunset route, and then they name all of them. I can pretty much guarantee, had I been alive in 1898, my name would have never been so important as to be listed here. But that's okay. But I would imagine I would have found my way to California somehow because I have always loved it here. In Santa Monica, extensive improvements have been made at the Arcadia Hotel, which was a very famous resort in Santa Monica in the day. Also in Santa Cruz, there are some people traveling there. There's also something about the Trans-Pacific steamers. So steamers of the Pacific Mail Steamship Company are traveling, sail from San Francisco for Yokohama and Hong Kong via Honolulu, calling at Kobe, Nagasaki, and Shanghai. That would be quite the adventure in the day. There are also steamers leaving for Panama and principal Central American ports. And then if you are wondering what kind of travel options are available to you, the Southern Pacific Companies has 3 overland routes: the Sunset Route, the Ogden Route, and the Shasta Route that connect the East and the West. So here are some options if you are on the East Coast and you're wanting to go westbound. I don't know if it's East Coast, but Eastern U.S. So there's the number 20 Sunset Express, buffet, drawing room, sleeping cars, New Orleans to San Francisco without change. And there's a tourist sleeping car leaving Los Angeles to Lathrop daily. On Tuesday, there's a tourist sleeping car from Chicago to San Francisco, Wednesday from Kansas City, Thursday from Fort Worth, personally conducted. Tourist sleeping car from St. Paul to Los Angeles, Wednesday from Kansas City, Thursday from Fort Worth. On Wednesday, there's a tourist sleeping car from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco, Thursday from New Orleans, personally conducted. I don't know what that means, that it's personally conducted. Thursday, tourist sleeping car from Cincinnati to San Francisco, Friday from New Orleans. Saturday, a tourist sleeping car from Washington, D.C. to San Francisco via New Orleans. The number 1000 Sunset Limited, a solid vestibuled train, Chicago to San Francisco via St. Louis, Fort Worth, and El Paso. Composite buffet car, ladies' parlor, observation and compartment car, double drawing room sleeping cars, and dining car through without change. Leaves Chicago and St. Louis on Tuesday. The last trip for the season is on May 3rd. Well, that sounds like the best one so far. A buffet car, ladies' parlor, double drawing room sleeping cars. That sounds good. And then there's the Sunset Limited Annex, New Orleans to El Paso, double drawing room sleeping cars, New Orleans to San Francisco without change. So that was all on the Sunset route. Then there's also the Ogden route. So vestibule, drawing room, sleeping car, Chicago to San Francisco via Omaha and Cheyenne. So we're going further north. So tourist sleeping car, Chicago to Los Angeles via Kansas City and Pueblo. Tourist sleeping car, Chicago to Los Angeles via Kansas City and Colorado Springs. We're going through Omaha. And then there's the Shasta route. Buffet, drawing room, sleeping car, Portland to San Francisco. So just some travel options in case you find yourself in 1858 trying to figure out how you are going to make your way to California. There is an ad for the Yosemite Valley and the big trees. I'm sure I would have wanted to go see that back in the day. And then we're on to the next issue. So we went through the very first ever issue of Sunset. So what do you think? You somehow find yourself in 1898. Would you have been a traveler? Would you have been an explorer? I was thinking about this as I was getting ready to record this episode. Younger me would have for sure wanted to travel. You know, if the criteria of my life is, for all intents and purposes, similar to my life blueprint in this lifetime, I would have been a young Jewish woman, and so my options would have been limited, unfortunately. But I would imagine I would have chafed against what was expected of me, again, if it's a similar personality to what I had in this lifetime. And I would have wanted to find a way to travel. Now, those options would have probably been limited, although maybe not. You know, Ashkenazi Jews and many immigrants were traveling all around the country to find their way. You know, it was about creating a new life. So I also suppose there would have been that within me. You know, if I sort of follow that line of thinking, if my parents had wound up in Chicago, I would have had family in Denver because that was the case. My grandmother was from Denver. So there would have probably been an impetus to go west and to find my way ultimately to California. But I wouldn't have been in one of the high-end sleeper cars, I'm sure. I would have been in, you know, the tourist accommodations or whatever they would call them back then. And I would have not been staying at the very Tony'd resort, I'm sure, but I would have found some other way to make my path in life, assuming that my same personality traits applied. But I will say, the me that I am now at this age stage I'm at, that does not sound good, taking a train across the country. So my sense of adventure has definitely dwindled in the way of travel as I have gotten older. But younger me was definitely ready to take on the world and experience things, and nothing was going to keep me from getting to California. And once I got here, I decided to move here. So I think it's one of the reasons I love reading through these old magazines so much. So I just find it interesting to read about perspectives back then. And to know for most people, they would only experience the Yosemite Valley through somebody else's words. So I enjoyed reading this with you. I hope by now you're asleep. You're having sweet dreams. I'm so deeply grateful for our time together. And I look forward to connecting again soon. Thank you so much. I am deeply grateful for you.